The Galactic War begins. The galaxy had known peace for nearly 100 years. Trade routes were open, treaties held strong, and species that once fought bitter wars now sat side by side in the grand halls of the Galactic Council. From the glittering towers of Sarin Prime to the icy colonies of Valus 9, civilizations flourished under a fragile but precious harmony. But peace, as history had proven time and again, was never permanent. Far beyond the Council's territory, in the uncharted sectors near the galactic rim, something ancient stirred. They came without warning, massive, black-armored ships shaped like razors, slicing through space with terrifying speed. They called themselves the Zenith Rise, a ruthless race born in the dark void between stars. They didn't conquer with diplomacy or declare war like the civilized worlds. They descended like a plague. One by one, outer colonies vanished. First, small settlements, mining outposts, research stations. Then entire planets fell. By the time the Council realized the scope of the threat, dozens of systems had gone silent. Millions were either dead or enslaved. The Zenith Rise didn't just seek territory. They sought domination, subjugation, erasure. The Galactic Council scrambled to respond. Fleets were assembled, alliances were called into action, emergency protocols were triggered. But nothing worked. The Council's military, built over decades for peacekeeping and defense, was no match for the merciless aggression of the invaders. Their weapons were advanced, their soldiers relentless, and their strategy, brutal efficiency. Desperation began to spread. In the central chamber of the Galactic Council, panic ruled behind closed doors. Representatives of dozens of species argued endlessly. Who would lead the counterattack? Who was to blame? And more importantly, who would save them? It was during one such meeting that the news came in. Zenith Rise forces had breached the Epsilon perimeter, the final defense line before the Terran colonies. Earth. The word still held weight, even though humanity had cut ties with the Council over a century ago. Once known as fierce warriors and explorers, humans had vanished from the galactic scene after a devastating civil war. They chose isolation, turning inward, rejecting diplomacy, and withdrawing their fleets. To most Council members, humans were a forgotten race, a relic of war, now obsolete in the new age of peace. That's why the idea of calling upon them again seemed foolish, even laughable. "They won't come," said the Relivian ambassador. "They're extinct," claimed the Xener diplomat. "They're irrelevant," insisted the High Priest of Oral. But not everyone agreed. A few remembered humanity's legacy, the unyielding spirit, the unmatched will to survive, and the warriors who never backed down. Then, something unexpected happened. A small transmission arrived at the Council's communication array. It was old tech, outdated frequencies, barely functional. Most systems ignored it, but a curious technician intercepted it and decrypted its content. A single message. "When the stars fall silent, the old guard shall rise. Tell them, Unit 0 is waking up." No one knew what it meant. But on a long-abandoned Terran moon, beneath a forgotten military base covered in ash and ice, lights flickered on for the first time in a century. Machines roared to life. Cryo chambers hissed open. Footsteps echoed through metal corridors as figures emerged. Not young recruits, but old veterans. Scars on their faces. Fire in their eyes. The old human soldiers were waking up. The old soldiers. Beneath the frozen surface of Luna 7, deep inside a forgotten Terran military bunker, a silent army stirred. The air hissed as ancient cryo chambers unlocked one by one. A cold mist drifted across the steel floors, curling around black boots and worn metal. Red lights pulsed along the walls, illuminating the insignia burned into the concrete. A silver eagle clutching a sword, the emblem of Unit 0. These were not ordinary soldiers. These were legends. Born in the fires of the last galactic war, Unit 0 had once been humanity's most elite fighting force. Operatives trained in every form of warfare, both conventional and psychological. After the war, when humanity retreated from the galaxy and abandoned its alliances, the unit was placed into cryogenic sleep, waiting, watching, guarding against a day the galaxy hoped would never come. That day had arrived. Commander Arce stood at the center of the chamber, steam rolling off his armored shoulders as he opened his eyes for the first time in over a century. He looked older, with silver streaks in his hair and a jagged scar running down the side of his face. But his gaze was sharp, cold, and calculating. A voice echoed through the room. Mechanical. Familiar. Welcome back, Commander Arce. Threat level. Extinction. Zenith. Rise invasion detected. Galactic Council compromised. Humanity requested. Arce stepped forward, his boots echoing through the silence. Around him, his soldiers were waking. Men and women who had faced impossible odds and lived. Some rubbed their eyes, others instantly reached for weapons. They didn't need explanations. The way Arce moved, the way the lights blinked, the way the air felt, it told them everything. They were at war again. He looked over his team, Captain Voss, the demolitions expert who once destroyed an entire armada with a single maneuver. Sergeant Kellen, a hand-to-hand combat master who had trained alien gladiators on Mars. Tech Officer Lyra, whose mind interfaced with machines faster than any AI. They were old, yes, but not weak. Cryotech had preserved their bodies. An enhancement from before stasis kept their muscles, reflexes, and senses at peak performance. Age hadn't dulled them. It had sharpened them, like steel left in the fire, forged over decades. Arce walked to the central console and activated the external feed. A hologram flickered to life, showing the latest reports from the Council. Dozens of colonies destroyed, millions dead, the Zenith rise spreading like wildfire. One feed caught his attention, a council chamber in chaos, diplomats yelling, panic in their eyes. Arce smirked. They're not ready, he said. They never were. Lyra looked up from her terminal. Should we contact them? Yes, Arce nodded, but not for permission. Just a warning. He stepped in front of the console and recorded a short message, a message that would be broadcast to every ship, every outpost, every corner of the galaxy where the Council still had ears. This is Commander Arce of Unit 0. You've forgotten us, but we did not forget our oath. We're coming. Clear the skies. The message was short, cold, efficient, and powerful. Within hours, it echoed across Council channels like a ghost from the past. On Saren Prime, a Sarn diplomat dropped his drink. On Oral Station, the Grand Priest whispered, impossible. On Valus 9, the Council's High Admiral leaned forward and muttered, humans? After all this time, but they were too late to stop it. Back on Luna 7, the underground hangars opened as massive Terran warships powered up. Engines rumbled to life, systems rebooted, and ancient cannons rotated with precision. These ships were outdated by galactic standards. No sleek curves, no fancy shielding. But they were built to last, and they had one thing the others didn't. Humanity's rage. Unit 0 loaded into the ships with silent discipline. No cheering, no speeches, only purpose. As the ships lifted into the atmosphere, Arce stood on the bridge, hands behind his back, staring out into the stars. Time to remind them, he said softly, what humanity really is. Return to the battlefield. The stars were eerily silent as the fleet of ancient Terran warships emerged from hyperspace. They didn't arrive in formation, nor did they broadcast a declaration of war. There was no fanfare, no grand orchestration, just the cold, mechanical hum of battle-ready vessels descending through the void like ghosts from a forgotten war. The Zenith Rise had surrounded Erelon Prime, a key Council colony on the edge of the Epsilon perimeter. The planet's defenses were failing. Its orbital stations burned. Civilian ships tried to flee, only to be ripped apart by the invaders' sleek black cruisers. The Galactic Council's remaining forces, a coalition of mismatched ships from various species, struggled to hold the line. But they were losing. And then, the humans arrived. The first ship to break through the clouds was the Vindicator, once considered obsolete by the Council, now roaring like a beast unleashed. Its hull was scarred with battle damage from wars long past, but its weapons lit up with renewed fury. A council officer aboard a defending cruiser stared at the incoming blips on the radar. "What are those?" he asked wide-eyed. His AI replied, voice uncertain. "Human vessels. Old class. Marked as decommissioned over a century ago." On the ground, Arelon skies turned crimson as the human dropships fell like fireballs. When Unit Zero hit the surface, the shockwaves knocked Zenith Rise scouts off their feet. Dust erupted. Earth cracked. And from that chaos emerged the old soldiers, armored in reinforced exosuits, weapons charged with deadly precision, helmets reflecting the flames of war. The Zenith Rise had never faced humans before. They had heard rumors, primitive, aggressive, emotional, nothing worth fearing. But rumors were wrong. Commander Arce was the first to open fire. His rifle, an old kinetic cannon most council species considered outdated, tore through the first wave of enemies like paper. His soldiers followed, moving as a single machine. Every step calculated, every shot fatal. The battlefield turned into a slaughter. The Zenith Rise fought back with brute force, releasing massive biomech warriors, pulsing with acid and armed with energy blades. They screamed in unnatural frequencies, disrupting lesser species' senses. But humans didn't flinch. Captain Voss rigged a makeshift bomb from a wrecked drone, throwing it under the feet of a charging beast. It exploded, sending the creature into the air in flaming chunks. Sergeant Kellen ripped through enemy ranks with brutal hand-to-hand combat, disabling their neural joints with surgical precision. Tech Officer Lyra hijacked an enemy communication tower mid-battle, turning it against their own drones and forcing them to attack their masters. One by one, Unit Zero dismantled the enemy advance. Overhead, human warships carved paths through Zenith Rise fleets. Their tactics weren't elegant, they were ruthless. They didn't retreat. They didn't hesitate. They targeted command ships first, collapsing the enemy's entire chain of command within minutes. On the Council's command ship, Admiral Vith of the Corther Confederacy watched in disbelief. "These are the same humans we dismissed," he muttered. His second-in-command, a young Orlan officer, whispered, "They're old. Some of them barely walk straight. But they don't stop," Vith said. "They don't even fear death." Indeed, many humans fell in battle. Explosions tore through their armor. Alien blades pierced their flesh. But not once did they scream for help. Not once did they beg for mercy. They fought with the grim certainty of those who knew war not from simulation, but from survival. Within hours, the skies over Arelon Prime cleared. The last Zenith Rise ship exploded in orbit, reduced to burning debris. Silence fell, and then the humans stood still, weapons lowered, eyes scanning the horizon. Not for celebration, but for the next threat. Commander Arce opened a channel to the Council fleet. "Arelon is secure. Casualty report incoming. Requesting coordinates for next front. No thanks. No medals. Just duty." On the Council flagship, silence lingered. Then, slowly, applause broke out among the bridge crew. Some clapped out of respect, others out of relief. But all of them understood one thing. Humanity was back, and they had changed everything. Victory and respect. The fires of war had quieted, but the smell of battle still lingered in the air. Across the now liberated colonies, the banners of the Zenith Rise lay trampled in the dust. Their war machines were destroyed, their fleets scattered to the far corners of space, and their leaders either dead or captured. What was once the most terrifying force in the galaxy had been shattered, not by a mighty armada, not by advanced technology, but by a force the Council had long forgotten. The old human soldiers, from planet to planet. The people watched as the survivors of Unit Zero marched through the ruins, not as conquerors, but as protectors. Dirty, wounded, limping but undefeated. Commander Arce stood among the rubble of the final battlefield, where the last Zenith Hive fell. His armor was scorched, a piece of shrapnel lodged near his ribs, but he refused medical attention. He looked up at the sky where thousands of drones floated, capturing every moment, broadcasting it live across the galaxy. "Let them see," he muttered. "Let them all see what they left behind." Back on Saren Prime, The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in 100 years, all member species attended. Every chair filled, every delegate silent as the chamber lit up with a single live transmission. The image of the Terran flag being raised above the ruins of the Zenith Fortress. An old symbol, silver eagle, blue stars, bold red lines, fluttering proudly in the alien wind. Murmurs filled the room. They've done it. They saved us. And we said they were extinct. The Supreme Chancellor, an ancient being from the Arcanid species, slowly stood. His voice, aged but powerful, echoed through the hall. Humanity, you have returned not in arrogance, but in sacrifice. You've reminded us all of what courage looks like. We owe you more than gratitude. We owe you respect. A hologram of Commander Arce appeared in the chamber. He didn't bow. He didn't smile. He simply nodded. We didn't return for medals, he said. We returned because the galaxy cried for help. And we heard it. But we are not staying. Gasps rose among the council. You're leaving? The ambassador from the Valari asked. Arce looked straight ahead, eyes hard. We are soldiers from another time. Our war is over. Let your new generation build peace. We've done our part. And when the stars fall silent again, we'll be watching. With that, the transmission ended. Later that day, in the vast plains of Luna 7, the soldiers of Unit 0 returned to their stasis chambers. One by one, they removed their gear, handed off their weapons, and walked quietly into the icy chambers that had preserved them for 100 years. Some limped. Others helped each other. All bore the weight of battle. Commander Arce was the last to enter. He looked up at the cold metal ceiling, then down at the world he had saved. No crowds cheered. No trumpets played. Just the wind and the silence of heroes. He closed his eyes and whispered, if they ever forget again, we'll remind them. The chamber sealed. Unit 0 slept once more. But now, the galaxy would never forget.